The United States' new border security chief has signaled a possible softening of the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. Tom Homan admits mistakes have been made and has pledged to reduce the federal force in Minneapolis, one that now numbers 3,000 agents. He's also promised to restore law and order after weeks of unrest.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz paying his respect for one U.S. citizen killed by federal border control agents. He had a clear message for ICE and their backers in Washington.
I'm not so interested in a shift of tone. We just need them out of here, and we need accountability for what's happened.
Right,
and do you think that will happen?
The governor left the question unanswered, but Tom Homan could have the answers. Trump's border czar, who's now leading federal operations in Minnesota.
I don't want to see anybody die. Not officers, not members of the community, and not the targets of our operations. You have your First Amendment rights, I support that. You have the right to protest. I'm just asking to keep it peaceful. But threatening law enforcement officers, engaging in impeding and obstruction and assault is never okay, and there will be zero tolerance. You interfere, impede, assault an ICE officers, you will be arrested.
Homan's presence in Minnesota is seen by some as a shift in ICE's aggressive tactics in the state. He suggested ICE could begin to draw down their forces if local officials expand cooperation with federal enforcers. But anger is still running high after the most recent killing of ICU nurse Alex Pretty by federal agents. Now video has emerged of Pretty in a separate altercation with ICE officials. In it, he's seen smashing the taillight of an ICE SUV before being subdued by agents. Some say it points to a pattern of aggressive behavior before Pretty was killed. However, critics say the event should be seen separately from Pretty's killing. Meanwhile, nurses around the United States have held vigils in memorial of Pretty and called for Washington to stop its aggressive raids around the country.
Well, Catherine Ross is a professor of law from George Washington University. Thank you very much for being on the show. What do you think motivated the Trump administration to back down?
The horrendous visuals, the swift decline in his approval ratings, the sense of outrage, and the fact that even a few Republican public servants, office holders, were saying that this just could not continue. A Republican candidate for governor in the state withdrew his candidacy and said he simply could not run on that party's ticket with what was going on in Minneapolis.
And Homan wants state and local leaders to cooperate more. Do you see that happening?
I think that the local government, the state and local government, is prepared to cooperate, and they claim that they actually have been cooperating. For example, one of the things that Homan suggested would be very helpful would be if ICE could simply go to the jails where people who've been convicted of crimes and don't have citizenship are being held, and pick them up there. Then one agent could go, and it would be a peaceful transfer with prison guards around. And the local officials said, we're already doing that. So one of the things that Homan did that had not been done earlier was he made appointments to consult with a lot of local leaders, both elected officials, appointed officials, and various community groups. And he says he's going to be doing that, more of that, in the next couple of days. But before that, they just came in and did whatever they wanted and didn't talk to anybody.
Now, Democrats have threatened to shut down the government over the funding of Homeland Security. How was that averted?
The Senate today denied funding. The House had approved it, and that appears to be a key part of Majority Leader Schumer's negotiations with the White House. But the Democrats do have conditions involving reining in what ICE is doing. And even if Homan were to say voluntarily, those are the orders he's prepared to give, you have to understand that he has been a prime mover in deporting, prime mover, I didn't really mean that as a pun, deporting many immigrants. And he also said not too long ago that immigrants who do not have their documents should be living in constant fear that they will be picked up. So right now we've got a enthusiastic effort to convince the public we're going to do things differently. Is that limited to public relations? Is it performative? Or is there a serious intent to obey the law moving forward and respect people's constitutional rights? We don't know yet.
Okay, so what does Minneapolis say about the constitutional limits of the federal government's authority to conduct unwanted operations in another state?
It's not just what they say. It's not just what the residents of Minneapolis say, it's what the Constitution requires. So, among the things that ICE has been doing and that apparently are still going on is, for example, they're going down streets and knocking on every door looking for immigrants. They have picked up many citizens. They dragged an old man out of his house in his underwear in the freezing cold, and he turned out to be a citizen. They are chasing people to front doors and saying they have warrants, but they do not actually have legal warrants because a warrant must be signed by a judge. And what they have is warrants signed by so-called administrative judges who are part of the executive branch, which is the branch of government that ICE reports to. And we have three branches of government. We have courts, we have the executive branch that ICE and the Justice Department are under, and we have the legislative branch. So the courts have to issue the warrants, or one department is just saying we're approving searches and arrests by our own employees. That doesn't provide any safeguard for the victims or the, U.S. citizens or non-citizens with documents. People are being held in jail for days after showing that they have legal status, including U.S. citizens. So that's one of the things. They're interfering with the expression of First Amendment rights by telling people that they can't demonstrate and that they can't follow them on the street, which is part of our rights to find out what is going on and observe. They won't give their names. In fact, I heard this morning, I don't know if this is still true tonight, that the state doesn't even have the names of the people who killed Alex Preddy, and they want to do a state criminal investigation, but they don't know who they're investigating. So these are all very serious problems. And most recently, even the Second Amendment, because they're saying that he had no right to be carrying a licensed gun in a state with an open carry law.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Catherine Ross, George Washington University.
All right, I want to pull in now our very own Misha Komadovsky. He is following this story for us from Washington. Misha, we've heard Homan there calling for local authorities to tone down their rhetoric and to cooperate with ICE agents, hinting at a possible drawdown of ICE operations in Minneapolis. Are his comments, are they likely to calm, to defuse the situation that we have right now in Minneapolis?
Well, it's a hard question to respond to. Homan's comments might slightly calm tensions, but it's far from certain. And he's trying to shift the tone and reduce federal enforcement if local cooperation improves, something some community leaders have said they wanted. And still, Minneapolis remains deeply divided, especially after the fatal shooting of ICU nurse Alex Pratty, who was killed by federal agents during protests against immigration enforcement, a case that has fueled outrage and protests in the city. He said a lot of progress has already been made. Homan added that he will stay until, in his words, the problem is gone, and that the federal government is open to reducing immigration enforcement in Minnesota, but only if ICE is given access to state and county jails.
Yeah, and the story with Alex Pratty, apparently there's a new chapter in that story. New video has surfaced of Pratty in an apparent scuffle, clash with federal officers 11 days before he was shot and killed by them. It has rekindled the debate around his death. What's being said?
Well, this is the footage from a January 13th protest that we're talking about. It shows him shouting at officers, spitting and kicking the taillight of an unmarked federal vehicle before being tackled to the ground. And supporters of Pratty's family say that the earlier altercation doesn't really justify this deadly shooting. And his attorney argues that the prior encounter shouldn't factor into how he was killed on January 24th.
I know that Democrats have been threatening to shut down the government, the federal government, over the funding of Homeland Security, the department responsible for ICE. I mean, if no agreement is reached, a partial shutdown would begin midnight Friday. We're talking about this week. What do you think the chances are that they will reach an agreement, or, you know, right behind you there, I mean, we're going to be seeing another government shutdown?
Quite possibly. The risk of a shutdown here is high this week, driven by clashes over immigration enforcement policy and DHS funding. But the exact outcome still depends on last-minute negotiations in Congress. That's the way it works, Brandon. The White House and Democratic negotiators are still talking, but a breakthrough hasn't materialized yet. And traders on prediction markets, because I'm really bad at predicting, currently price the chance of a shutdown this week at roughly 75–80% by the end of January. So I guess we have to wait and see.
Wow, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are hoping that the predictions this time are not correct. We will see. Misha Komadovsky for us in Washington. Misha, as always, thank you.